Okay, hold on. I need to turn off my air conditioner because shit's loud. Shit's loud, dog. All right, so I want to talk about more YouTube drama. Wow, I look like a crackhead. Guys, I'm all about being a crackhead. So, all right. I want to fucking talk about... Okay, I don't like that there's someone in here. Because this is supposed to be like I'm in here talking and I know. Okay, cool. That person left. There's a person in here and I didn't like it. I'm going to edit this and then re-upload it. So I want to talk a little bit about Keemstar, Trisha Paytas, H3, what's going on, a little bit of the drama, this week ensued. So first of all, could we just talk about how, thirsty Trisha Paytas and Ethan Klein are to, have that frenemies dynamic again? Because it's just after you have a platform where people are watching you and engaging with you about calling out the biggest pieces of shit that, look, YouTubers are pieces of shit. That's just something I'm coming to terms with. It's weird because it's kind of been obvious that they've been pieces of shit. I mean, Logan Paul filmed someone hanging themselves. He filmed someone hanging themselves or someone who had hung themselves in the Japanese suicide forest. And obviously he got a lot of shit for it, which, by the way, I think if that happened today with how desensitized people are, it probably wouldn't even have been that big of a deal. But that happened, maybe 2014? I don't even know when the fuck that happened. And it was a big deal. But that was that should have been a precursor to just the fact that this should probably have stopped. There should have been a little bit more regulations, more, who are these YouTubers? This let's make this less of the wild, wild west. But YouTube's always kind of been like that. It's kind of just been go ham. The culture around it is kind of I would say it blurs the lines of social ethics and informs the way that society sees parasocial relationships and dynamics between celebrities and fans and just the kind of influence they have and the reach they have and then the takes they have on things that are toxic as fuck in their behaviors. So let's talk first about what's going on with, if you're who's Keemstar? Keemstar is literally trash. Most people don't really know who he is. I mean, I have no clue who the fuck would watch Keemstar. I'm 26. I can't. He, any adult who watches him who isn't, mentally, when I say mentally retarded, I mean, able to understand. It's just hard. I'm not going to shit on someone for liking someone like Keemstar if they don't understand social cues and aren't there, I won't demonize them for that. But if you're, a person who's supposed to be, a functional member of society and you're an adult and you pay taxes, but you watch someone like Keemstar... But he's obviously, I don't want to draw people to his channel, not that anyone's watching this, but he's a piece of shit. And he's always saying, really edgy, takes. But when I say edgy, I mean racist, rapey, he's a rape apologist. He's a victim blamer. And, you could find this, it's that's his MO. And that's actually what his whole, persona on YouTube is. It's that he's honestly just a piece of shit. He's just trying, he honestly says the worst fucking shit, probably because it's so bad and that's his MO. But it's I think he tries to project this energy that's that's a character. That's not really who I am, or that's what I put it. It's you can't, that's, if you're a YouTuber and your job is literally to just be a complete piece of shit and not even in there's nothing redeeming about the kind of piece of shit he is, because it's everything he says is just the worst. Nothing he says is redeeming. But then his whole thing is that as a person he's a better guy than that. Anyways, fuck that guy. I'm not even gonna like entertain giving a little psychoanalysis on his 40-year-old. I'm not gonna say he's geriatric because 40 isn't like, I'm not like, I'm 26, you know, I'm actually less than halfway to 40. So, I mean, that's still old. Look, that's old. 40's old. And especially when you're like thinking of a 40-year-old as a 20-year-old who's only 2 years older than 18, it's only 1 year older than 17, which is a fucking child. You don't really think like, so yeah, Keemstar is a 40-year-old man, and he is fucking and dating a 20-year-old girl who's no one knows she's just like a random girl that he met at a fan meetup. Okay, and this is like all legal, so really there's nothing else to say other than it's fucking gross. But you know, it's gross, and so there really isn't a point in even giving it much attention because it's just like cool. It's just like another, you know, man-child 40-year-old who is fucking and dating a, you know, borderline teenager because the 20-year-old is a borderline teenager. And it's gross, but it's legal, so what could you really do other than be like, ew? And it's not like anyone thinks Keemstar is anything other than ew, so. But anyways, Trisha made a podcast episode where she was kind of talking about it, and she was talking about how gross it was and, you know, all the stuff that make us maybe like Trisha, because at least, you know, at least she's not like a pick-me who is still young or uninterested in anything other than herself. Because, yeah, she is interested in herself. She's obsessed with herself. But at least she's always like complaining about social issues, and like she's actually speaking with conviction versus just like, let me hop on the clout train, or like, let me not have opinions on anything. So I think that's refreshing. So she made a video, and she was kind of complaining about the whole situation, talking about how gross it was. To be honest, I don't even think anyone would have noticed. Like, I don't think Ethan, for example, who fucking hates Keemstar, like, they have a little beef. And I don't even think he would have known. So, like, Trisha made a video about it. And then Keemstar came for Trisha. It was all this bullshit. And then Ethan, on his podcast, he made the video title Trisha versus Keemstar. And he didn't really talk about Trisha that much. He just kind of used her as a catalyst to talk about how gross Keemstar is. And then it just became this whole fucking thing. And he ended up getting, like, Ethan ended up getting banned for a week from YouTube because Keemstar, I guess, got his channel banned for a week, which is very ironic. Like, if you guys want to know what Keemstar has done, like, first of all, when Jake Paul, not Logan Paul, Jake Paul was accused by a girl of orally raping her mouth. And Keemstar pretty much said, like, how is that possible? Can't you just move your head away? Can't you turn your head away? He was trolling. Like, that's the kind of shit he says. Like, he says shit that's just abhorrent because I guess in his fucked up brain, that's humor. Like, because it goes past being edgy and it's just, like, fucked up and not in a good way. But there are people, especially little kids, who for some reason their humor isn't refined. It's not developed. Like, kids are kind of sociopathic, honestly, most of them. They don't have, like, that sensitivity or that emotional, you know, intelligence quite yet. So they laugh at fucked up stuff. And Keemstar, you know, thinks he's fucking hilarious when he does that shit because a bunch of dumb, sociopathic, inbred kids watch him. And look, I could look at him. I look like I'm missing teeth. I look like a crackhead. I'm not. I'm just unfortunate in my aesthetic. But but if anything, that even gives me more leeway to say it's like the kind of people that watch Keemstar to be people who look like they'd be my cousins. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, yeah, so he said, you know, like, oh, how could someone get raped in the mouth? Talking about a girl who's like 23, but I guess to him that's old. So clearly he doesn't have to show her any kind of reverence or respect. she's old and hit the wall at 23. And that's probably how he thinks, honestly, but so fucking gross. So he's like, oh, how could you get raped in the mouth? You know, you could have turned your head. And then there was also a situation a while back with a YouTuber named Etika, who's a dude who was very, you know, I guess unhinged and suicidal. And Keemstar was like, oh, well, you know, if you're that suicidal, why don't you just end it? Like, why don't you just end it, bro? And the guy, Etika, did actually kill himself. And if that isn't, I'm not saying that, like, Keemstar is the direct reason why that YouTuber unalive killed himself. But, like, obviously he just contributed to it. Like, I don't, you know, I deal with a lot of mentally ill people in chat rooms, unfortunately, and it's not very different from how Keemstar behaves and acts, and it's just, I don't know why he's even in the sphere of public awareness. But anyways, so those were just two of the things. He's just done and said a lot of shit, and he's really unlikable. So somehow he gets to, you know, he gets to be the one to cancel, or to literally cancel Ethan for a week, which is so fucked up if you think about it, because guys like David Dobrik, Jake Paul, you know, all these people who are actually having like rape accusations or like coercion or like running legit scams, they get canceled, but they're the ones who choose to like, or James Charles, who James Charles is a fucking gross pedo, but you know, I'm not going to come for James Charles, honestly, because I don't care about him that much. And like, he's stunned. Like, okay, no. This is me on defending James Charles because he has some like weird halo effect for being like a bubbly, cute, not cute, like, but like, hi sisters. Like, he has that kind of halo effect. But he's obviously a piece of shit. Hopefully he grows out, like maybe he matures a little bit and he stops wanting little boys. Ew. Okay. Anyways, but it's weird because these people don't get banned or deplatformed. They're the ones who are like, okay, I'm going to take like a break because everyone hates me right now. I'm just going to lay low. And then I'm going to come back when I feel like it. And the content, like, it's like they're still rich. They still have fans. So nothing really happens. But then Ethan, who, I mean, like, I don't want to sound like an H3, you know, fangirl groupie because it's like, no. Like, I'm not that fucking lame. But he's really kind of like, if anything, he's like a moral police, and it's like maybe he's kind of a hypocrite. Like, there's always these arguments where it's like, well, look up videos, like he said the N-word, like and that's fucking terrible, and that's not excusable, and that's what makes me kind of think like he's just fucking lame too. Because let me just also go off on a little side tangent. Like, I've never said that. Okay, like I've never said like the N-word with a hard R, trying to like. To try to be like, oh, you want to stop me from saying it? Well, then I'm going to say it. Because that's like why a lot of these like edgy white YouTubers when they were younger would say like slurs. It's because they were like, oh, you're not supposed to say it, so I'm going to say it. And they didn't have like that awareness. I never thought that was funny, like in that context. Like, I've definitely laughed at like Chappelle skits or, you know, that word in general when used in like a funny comedic, never used by white people though, unless it's trying to be like a satire of a white guy trying to culturally appropriate black culture, shit like that. But like, yeah, I don't know, it's like a lot, but people come for Ethan and they're like, well, he said a lot of fucked up shit, and like, but you know, it's just like when you're thinking of the actual context, Ethan isn't like a bad dude. He's never said like, oh, how was she raped? Why, like, what was she wearing? Or like, why, like, couldn't she, like, he's never actually, you know, At least maybe that's my perspective and I'm wrong, but no, he's definitely not as shitty as Keemstar, and especially for none of the content he's done recently. So it's just, to me, extremely ironic that, like, all these terrible YouTubers stay on YouTube and, like, get to choose their schedule, and then Ethan gets banned for talking shit about a 40-year-old guy who's fucking a 20-year-old and making really gross, like, it's so fucking gross. Because, like, the way it was phrased was like, I don't even want to repeat what the fucking dude who was co-hosting with Keemstar said. It said something about sliding into new cheeks. That's a meme right there. Like, everyone who's talking about this thinks that whole fucking, like, just the whole exchange, so fucking gross. And Keemstar's like, I'm like a young guy myself. Or, you know, like, or... It's just so gross. I don't know. Now, I'm really curious. Why, like... I understand age gaps are kind of, they're subjective. You know what I mean? Like, that sounded bad. But I'm saying, like, look, if it's, for example, a 26-year-old and a 34-year-old, that's still a decade apart. It's still someone in their 20s, someone in their 30s. But that's like, all right, you know, a 26-year-old has already had some life experience, and they're already past that, like, stage of really kind of developing more adult social interactions. They're not so naive. Like, something definitely within me happened between being in my early 20s and being, like, in my mid-20s. And it's going to obviously, as you get older, like, you learn more, you develop a new perspective based on all your previous experiences, and you notice patterns. So obviously time doing things will add to your, and I can understand how maybe when someone's young and fresh and naive, it's like exciting. And it might not even seem predatory to the to the person who's, like, in the power position, because it's just like, oh, I just like this person's vibe. But there is still, it's like gross, because it's like, you like their vibe because they haven't been corrupted yet by people like you. Like, you want to corrupt this, like, naive, perky, you know, excited, bubbly 20-year-old, you know? And that's why, and then people, like, I look, I'm going to say this. There is something in the GMOs or some shit that's making bitches stay young looking. Like, I'm serious. I talk to a lot of, like, girls online, and they look like they are in their early 20s, late teens even, and they're, like, in their late 20s or early 30s. So it's not that people who are, like, not 21 or something look old. Like, I feel like people would call me bitter for talking shit about old men. It's same with old women. I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of, like, cougars or, like, rich older women who go for, like, young, sprightly stallion men. I know there's, like, a double standard with that, and for some reason when a woman does something, it's, like, less creepy or whatever, but it's not to me. I fucking feel creepy if I'm, like, if, like, a 22-year-old flirts with me and I'm 26 and, like, I find out they're 22 and I find myself attracted to them, I think that's just so weird. And I'm like, and it actually, like, I get thrown off. And just, like, the idea of me feeling creepy about it turns me off from the situation, period. Like, my brain just cannot, it just can't, like, turn back from that feeling of, like, oh, you know, I'm older than you and I kind of don't want to, like, I don't know. That's how I feel. But I will say too, though, it's like with men and women, historically, women are usually seen as the ones who need to be protected and who, you know, so it's like even the age thing, it's like no matter what, there is that like physical power dynamic that optically is like, oh, well, the guy seems like he could, you know, protect. Even if it's like an Oedipus thing where it's like a guy and his mom, it's like he still wants to protect his mom. So I think that's why society doesn't seem as threatened by like women sexual predators. But for sure, you know, that should exist too. But like, I don't know why, because when it comes to men, just the idea that they pretty much seem to sexualize anything they find attractive. Like that's just something I've learned. Like I think, you know, especially like straight guys or guys with like a lot of testosterone or who have like a high libido in general, like how could you not expect them to sexualize what they find attractive? So I think it's so fucked up that knowing that it's like if a guy finds a really young girl attractive and he's old, it's like what other like there isn't like the temptation is so much higher for him to act on it, especially if the opportunity presents itself. And I think it's like a lot of these like celebrity men who are like emotionally stunted, especially, they get really like enamored by this idea of having such easy access to like fresh cheeks. It's so gross. And the fact that that's how they choose to even like a 40-year-old man is talking about a 20-year-old girl that he's fucking and he's not even like giving her ew. He's not even like giving her respect about it. He's like, and he said she doesn't even really know what I do on the internet. Like, I'm sure he is actually really scared of her watching one of his videos. He probably tells her all the time, like, please don't look me up. Like, don't listen to my shit. Like, you know, I don't want to ruin what we have by you hearing the shit I say on my channel. And she's like a dumb 20-year-old girl, so she's probably like, whatever. Like, I don't even want to listen to what you have to say. I'm on TikTok. Like, I'm like looking at videos of lip gloss tutorials. Like, so she probably doesn't even know what he says. I'm pretty sure that if she heard what he would said, like literally any snippet of any video that he has on the internet, like, is probably really terrifying to hear from like a girlfriend. Like, if I heard my boyfriend say about another girl who was 23 who got, like, mouth raped by a famous influencer, if I heard my boyfriend say, whoa, why didn't you just move your mouth or move your face? All I'm saying is, like, how's that happen? If I heard that, I'd be fucking terrified, to be honest. Because I'm like, well, what's going to stop him from doing that to me? Like, if he honestly doesn't seem to realize, like, the fuck? So, I don't know. I really hope his girlfriend isn't mentally retarded and finds his videos and actually, like, there really is no way. But I don't know. Then there are some chicks who really just, I mean, there's no reason to assume that this person, like, if you're dating, here's also what I'm going to say about a 20-year-old, because there is this like narrative where like other women have brought up where it's like we shouldn't infantilize this, or was it a guy that said it? It was like you shouldn't infantilize a 20-year-old girl because it's like, yeah, she's still young, but she's still 20. Like she's not like, at that point, you understand social dynamics. Like you've been hurt, you know, you've had your little like pre-game breakups and fallouts. So it's like your moral compass by the time you're 20 should already be pretty defined. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think even a 20-year-old who's kind of dumb would put up with Keemstar's misogyny unless they themselves had some kind of like, you know, like that. Some people like the abuse. Some people like that Sid and Nancy bullshit. You know, there really is no way that a guy like Keemstar is treating his 20-year-old girlfriend with respect. Like, it's definitely an emotionally abusive relationship because he's an emotionally abusive person. And you don't even have to talk to him to know that. So that imagine actually being with him. Imagine actually, like, depending on him to an extent. And I just imagine he probably, like, throws shit in her face all the time. He's like, well, I did this for you. Oh, you're just with me for my money, aren't you? Like, you probably just, it's so fucked up. And she's 20, and it's like, she probably doesn't know how to fucking deal with that kind of, like, emotional manipulation. And he's probably scary. Have you seen his fucking beard? He looks like thick Jafar. I know if he heard me call him thick, he would fucking, because it's like he said he, like, lost a bunch of weight, which I don't fucking know. I don't pay attention to him. He's like, so he, like, glowed up in his head, and now he's probably has the confidence to date a child. And he's even made jokes, like, about how creepy it is, too. But you could know he's fucking retarded. That's the problem. He's not even like a, you know, a really, like, sly and cunning, like, you know, master manipulator. Like, he's literally a dumb child in a 40-year-old body. So, but it's still, like, fucked up. Because regardless of the age difference, it's like, no one in their right mind would be with someone like Keemstar at this point with his, like, public track record. Like, maybe, you know, when he, like, because I don't really want to start talking about him, but it's like when you're with someone and they aren't like that and then they turn into that and you're already with them for a long time and you have to deal with, like, realizing that they're a piece of shit and that's, like, their bread and butter. Like, that's different than already, like, meeting someone and knowing that that's who they are because that's, like, their career. So, you know, I think it's fucked up that H3 got his channel banned for a week. And also, I want to talk also right quick about how it's kind of fucked up because it's, like, infringing on someone's freedom of speech, especially as a comedy channel. Like, he's not allowed to meme. Like, he's not, like, he now has to, like, really walk on eggshells when it comes to, like, making fun of shitty people. And that's kind of, like, the point of a channel like that. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with YouTube? Why are they banning, like, one of their, I mean, I don't know how, like, H3's, I would say, a pretty poppin' channel. It has, like, a pretty steady and, you know, lucrative, I don't know what word I'm trying to find, but it's, like, it's like a big channel, and Keemstar isn't that big, so that's another thing, too. It's like, what the fuck? Why are they, like, listening to Keemstar? But it's, like, he honestly was just, like, making fun of it, you know? I will say that, like, Ethan Klein does this thing where sometimes he forgets that he is on, like, a channel or he's on a platform that is kind of fucking lame and has been really kind of, like, doubling down on kind of not letting people do their thing, but it's still pretty good. And, you know, he kind of goes off the rails or whatever, and it's usually not even that bad, but he's always, you know, getting into some bullshit, but it's never that bad. But now it's like if he's getting banned for a week and he's, like, getting striked for making fun of someone, like, especially someone who, it's not like he's making fun of, like, someone with, like, a mental illness. I mean, okay, wait, obviously, it's not like he's making fun of someone who, you know, doesn't deserve it. And I think we know who wouldn't deserve it. It's not like he's bullying someone for, you know, existing. He's commenting on a situation that is gross and weird and making fun of, you know, the person. So I don't know why he would even get banned. And now he's going to come back, but is he not allowed? Like, what could he talk about then? Like, it's like he's, you know, can you imagine being a content creator? And it's like, that's why, like, like, YouTube is why he's rich. So it's like kind of a production. So it's like now he might have to change his actual like, you know, the infrastructure of the podcast. It's like, what could he fucking talk about if he's gonna be censored? So weird. I really don't understand like the ethics of a lot of these like sites. Like why, like they punish certain people and then kind of like protect others, and it's usually really like weird because the people they protect are assholes. It's kind of fucking weird. And the thing, and like I'm gonna say this again, Keemstar, like who the fuck knows who Keemstar is? Like who the fuck cares about Keemstar? So like why the fuck is YouTube even like entertaining Keemstar's request to like hurt a channel that is like honestly objectively bigger and better than Drama Alert or like whatever he does? So fucking weird. Anyways, so that was that little conversation. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I think I was going off on a tangent about why old guys like young girls, and then I kind of like trailed off. But there's a little something weird about that, you know. I don't know why a 40-year-old go for a 20-year-old. Like I just feel like 20 is like it's so close to like barely legal, and it's really close. It's even close to illegal, you know. And it makes me really uncomfortable because, like, I just think for where we are now with society and, like, our social awareness of ebophilia and parasocial abuses of power, I mean, because the amount of fucking celebrities this year who are grown men who have gotten canceled or like sued or whatever for fucking little girls is pretty insane. And it's past like the Me Too movement. It's past like, oh, we're all grown adults. Like when you're starting to talk about like teenagers or girls like who aren't even old enough to drink yet, because 20 isn't even like in the US where they live, where we all live, like a 20-year-old can't even drink legally yet. So he can't even take this, like, he can't even take his fucking 20-year-old girlfriend to a bar or to a show most of the time. It's just fucking weird. Like, you gotta wonder why a 40-year-old man would actually even be talking to in any social or romantic way with a 20-year-old, like unless they're related, which I don't want to be romantic, but so weird. Like, not only like you have nothing in common with a 20-year-old, but it's like you really have nothing in common with a 20-year-old. Like they're like fucking kids. And no matter what, when there's like a big age difference, there's always kind of that like, oh, little one, or like, oh, like you're the little one, you know, like you kind of, whatever. People shouldn't be trying to fuck like the fun and youthful people in their life. They could appreciate their, you know, like zest for life and the fact that they haven't been like fucked over and, you know, petrified with bitterness. That doesn't mean you have to be like, oh, I like your attitude. I like your naivety and like your pinkness. Not, no pun intended. But that's it. It's like, oh, does that mean you have to fuck them? Like, can't you just appreciate them and then move on with your life? I don't know. It's so weird. Like, I don't want to infantilize children. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, these people are like, you know, have no voice, have no say in stuff. But like, you know, they need to learn stuff with people in their own like range of experience, you know, who are like learning things at the same pace as them. Or like there isn't 20 years worth of like fucking, oh God, he was 20 when she was born. That's insane. That'd be like her, hooking up with a 1-year-old. So think about that, okay? I don't know. Men are gross. That's it. Am I going to get banned for saying men are gross? All right. Well, yeah, I guess that's about it. Also, oh yeah, and the last part of the drama. So now Trisha Paytas actually said that, I know I spent 30 minutes talking shit about Keemstar, but ugh. So she said this, okay? She said that because she is actually interested, or not interested, but because she's actually has a personal issue with, okay. Let me get to Trisha's latest podcast. Enemies. Very original title. So there's this drama where Keem started kind of, tweeting at Trisha and saying hey, let's talk. Let's have you on my podcast and just have an adult conversation. No pun intended again. Because clearly Keemstar, are you an adult or are you not? Figure it out. But he's like, hey, let's just have an adult conversation. And that kind of became a thing where people are people who even stuck by Trisha after her showing what a selfish person she is in a very overt way. People are look, if you collaborate with this rape apologist, or even talk to him, then you're a fucking hypocrite. I don't know if I could continue to be your fan. So who the fuck is watching right now? But yeah, people were pretty much saying that. So I don't know. I don't think what does she have to gain from talking to him about him being a 40-year-old dating a 20-year-old? That's definitely for her wanting some money and attention, and that kind of sucks. So it's how do you actually feel? Because it's you have to understand, there really is no way to try to convince someone like that they're pieces of shit or that they're wrong. There is no, they know and they don't care. So really just even talking to him, it's probably supposed to be a dig at her brother-in-law who got banned from this guy who said that a girl can't be mouth raped because she can easily just turn her head to the side. I don't know. It's weird.